Lillian and Jordan's friendship blossomed in the hallways of their school, where they shared a desk for 5 years. Their days were filled with whispered secrets, shared cheat sheets, and swapping treats from the cafeteria. They walked home together every day, their journey ending at the first crossroads, where they would part ways with a promise to meet again the next day. Their families were intertwined, with their parents working together and frequently visiting each other's homes, bringing Lillian and Jordan along for the ride. Despite their closeness, Jordan loved to tease Lillian about her short haircut, playfully calling her a tomboy, which always sparked a little fire in her. She would retaliate by scolding him for the dirt that seemed permanently lodged under his nails and his goofy faces that she pretended to despise. Their bickering was a constant backdrop to their childhood, yet their parents often chuckled, hinting that one day the two would end up together. And that's exactly what happened. After high school, they ventured off to the same college, reveling in their newfound freedom. They spent countless nights exploring the city, watching the sunrise and making memories by the bay, with marshmallow-laden sticks over a cozy fire. Their bond deepened, free from parental oversight, and it wasn't long before Jordan proposed. Lillian's yes came with a single condition. They would finish their education before walking down the aisle. Their wedding was a simple affair, just as they had wanted. After exchanging vows and a symbolic release of doves, they celebrated with their closest family and friends at Jordan's family home. The modest gathering was filled with laughter, toasts, and shared memories. Life after college saw them both diving into their careers as engineers, where they found considerable success. Yet, it was the small moments at home that held the most weight for them, especially for Lillian. She often found herself gazing at their wedding photo, a snapshot of youthful joy and simplicity, with Jordan in a casual shirt and herself in a summer dress. Beside it hung photos with children, their laughter captured in time, but they weren't Lillian and Jordan's children. They were her cousins, who they often babysat, filling their home with the echoes of a family they longed for but couldn't have. Lillian had always envisioned a house filled with the pitter-patter of little feet, but fate had other plans. The news that she could never bear children shattered her dreams into uncollectible pieces. The weight of this reality often pressed down on her, breaking the silence of their home with her sobs. Jordan, ever the rock, stood by her through the storm of emotions. Not many could shoulder such pain with the grace he did. His love for Lillian was unwavering, a testament to the depth of their bond. The absence of children of their own didn't diminish his devotion. If anything, it only deepened it. Jordan had become adept at navigating Lillian's emotional storms, maintaining a calm that often puzzled her. She couldn't fathom how he remained so composed amidst her tumultuous outbursts. However, Jordan was not impervious to strain. He had his breaking points, and when pushed beyond them, intense arguments would erupt between them. Lillian, in her moments of doubt, sometimes accused him of staying with her only for the prospect of inheriting her family's prosperous farm. As the sole heir of her aging parents, she suspected his commitment was anchored not in love but in the lure of the land. When confronted with such accusations, Jordan's response was laughter, not anger. His deep affection for Lillian shielded him from taking offense. Raised in a military family, Jordan was accustomed to blunt exchanges. His father, Henry, a veteran of 40 years, had instilled in him not just discipline and duty, but a profound respect for protecting and cherishing women. Jordan's commitment to Lillian was unwavering. Despite the naysayers who deemed him a fool for dedicating his life to a woman who couldn't bear children, he remained steadfast. His faith played a significant role in his resilience. He believed that their union was divinely ordained, and he trusted in the purpose behind their challenges. His traditional values, deeply influenced by his mother Alice, were a cornerstone of his character. When his parents learned of their inability to have children, their support never wavered. They had longed for grandchildren, yet their love and acceptance remained constant. Alice, ever the sage, would often impart wisdom to Jordan, reminding him of the joys and trials of parenthood with a touch of humour. "Son, you were quite the handful yourself. Take this time to enjoy your life together." Over time, Lillian found a way to come to terms with the likelihood of not having children. As the years rolled by, she poured her energy into her career, climbing the ranks in the company where she had started as an intern. Despite her professional success, there was a pang in her heart whenever she saw young families, a reminder of what she yearned for but could not have. On the evening of her 30th birthday, Jordan whisked her away to a quaint romantic restaurant, setting the scene for a special celebration. Sitting across from him, Lillian couldn't help but feel grateful. Jordan was her rock, her constant in a sea of uncertainty. His presence was the anchor that kept her sane through the turmoil of her unfulfilled dreams of motherhood. His words of encouragement, reminding her that life was rich with other joys and purposes, often helped her find her footing again. Their intimate dinner was suddenly interrupted by a ringtone. Lillian excused herself to answer, recognizing the number as Whitney's, a friend from high school. "Happy birthday, Lily. How's your night going?" Whitney's voice bubbled through the phone, brimming with excitement. Before Lillian could reply, Whitney's tone soared even higher with enthusiasm. "I have the most amazing news, Lily. It's about pregnancy," she exclaimed, her laughter spilling through the line. Lillian, feeling a twinge in her heart, momentarily set the phone aside, gathering her composure. Picking it up again, she responded with a forced cheerfulness. "Yeah, Whitney, you've mentioned your pregnancy. Quite a few times, actually." Whitney, undeterred by Lillian's lackluster response, pressed on. No, Lily. It's even more incredible than that. We just had another ultrasound and guess what? Twins, Lily, twins. Can you believe it?" The volume of Whitney's voice made Lillian wince, pulling the phone away from her ear. She waited for Whitney's ecstatic outpour to subside before speaking again, her voice steady and devoid of any resentment. Despite the insensitivity of her friend's timing, Lillian held no grudge. Whitney's joy was genuine, and Lillian knew it wasn't meant to cause pain. "That's really something, Whitney. Congratulations," Lillian managed to say, her words measured, hiding the ache Whitney's news had inadvertently deepened. Whitney's enthusiasm was a trait Lillian had come to expect over the years. Whether it stemmed from Whitney's natural disposition or a desire to flaunt her life's milestones was unclear to Lillian. After a few more minutes of animated chatter, Whitney seemed to remember the occasion she was calling into. "I'll let you go now, Lily. I just couldn't keep this news to myself any longer. I had to tell you. Aren't you thrilled for us?" Whitney inquired, her voice bubbling with anticipation for Lillian's reaction. Lillian mustered as much enthusiasm as she could. "Absolutely, Whitney. That's fantastic news. Nathan and Peter must be over the moon," she responded, her tone carefully cheerful to match Whitney's excitement. Beneath her polite response, Lillian fought the urge to express her true feelings, to tell Whitney how her call had cast a shadow over her birthday. But she held back, not wanting to dampen Whitney's joy or add any more stress to her own life. She ended the call and met Jordan's gaze, finding solace in his understanding eyes. "Yeah, quite the birthday surprise," Lillian remarked dryly, her gaze drifting off, as she processed the conversation. Whitney, slightly younger and noticeably smaller in stature, had often been the target of bullies in school. Lillian speculated that these early experiences might have contributed to Whitney's sometimes thoughtless remarks, which Lillian chose to overlook out of a sense of protectiveness and long-standing friendship. During Whitney and Nathan's wedding, where Lillian served as a witness for the groom, she had found Nathan to be quite charming. Nathan's tall, handsome appearance had left a positive impression on her. Jordan, however, didn't share Lillian's favourable view of Nathan. Having known Nathan since middle school, Jordan remembered him as an oddball, his opinion not based on a single incident, but on a series of peculiar behaviours. Jordan recalled a particularly disturbing episode from their school days. Walking home one afternoon, the boys had spotted a bird's nest perched in a tree. Nathan had climbed up and, to the horror of his peers, began pocketing the helpless nestlings. When questioned, Nathan nonchalantly stated he intended to feed them to his dog. The cruelty and strangeness of the act had stuck with Jordan, shaping his lasting impression of Nathan as not just cruel, but peculiar in a way that was unsettling. On another occasion, Jordan caught Nathan in a dubious act by the vending machine, attempting to finagle a free soda, using a flat metal tool to manipulate the coin slot. Despite having money, Nathan chose to tamper with the machine, which ended up breaking that day. Jordan couldn't wrap his head around such behaviour. It seemed to be just part of Nathan's nature. Jordan had his reservations about Nathan, and even tried to share his concerns with Whitney before they got married, hinting that she might want to think twice about her choice. He half expected their marriage to falter early on, but to his surprise, Whitney and Nathan's union remained strong. 8 years in, they were happily married, raising their son Peter and eagerly awaiting the arrival of twins. As Whitney's pregnancy advanced, everyday tasks became increasingly challenging for her, especially with Nathan often away on business. Nathan's work as a used pickup truck dealer kept him on the road, scouting for deals on vehicles he could refurbish and sell for a profit.
During Nathan's trips, Whitney sometimes sought Lillian's company, asking her to come over for a chat. After one such visit, Lillian returned home feeling utterly drained and out of sorts. Jordan hadn't come back from work yet, and when she tried calling him, there was no answer.
This pattern of Jordan returning home late had become more frequent over the past few days, and Lillian found it unusual. She waited up for him until 11 p.m. that night, and when he finally arrived, she couldn't help but question his whereabouts. Jordan explained that he'd been held up at work due to an urgent project. The client had requested an accelerated timeline, prompting his team to put in extra hours to meet the new deadline. Lillian, too tired to probe further, accepted his explanation without delving into specifics, which Jordan would have found difficult to elaborate on. In their line of work, such shifts in schedules and extended work hours were not uncommon to meet tight deadlines and deliver results promptly. Jordan's new habit of coming home late continued. Each evening followed the same pattern: arriving late, quietly taking a shower, and slipping into bed, careful not to disturb Lillian. One evening, after an unusually long day at her own job, Lillian drove past Jordan's office and noticed the absence of cars in the parking lot, including Jordan's. Yet, he arrived home late again that night. "Why are you still awake, honey?" Jordan asked, surprised to find Lillian sitting up in bed. "Just reading," Lillian responded, putting her book aside. She ventured cautiously. "Another long night at the office?" "Yeah, it's been hectic lately," Jordan admitted with a tired sigh. Lillian let the conversation drop there, but a seed of doubt had planted itself in her mind. Jordan's evasiveness and the inconsistencies she'd noticed were alarming. Instead of jumping to conclusions, she decided to seek advice from the one person she always turned to in times of uncertainty, her mother, Jackie. Jackie's reaction to Lillian's concerns was not what Lillian had hoped for. Behind closed doors, Jackie spoke in hushed, urgent tones. "Lillian, think about it. It sounds like Jordan might be losing interest. Maybe there's someone else." Lillian forced a smile, trying to lighten the mood. "Do I really look that unappealing, Mom?" "It's not about your appearance, Lillian. You're beautiful," Jackie reassured her. "But attraction isn't just skin deep." "Then what is it about?" Lillian asked, feeling increasingly perplexed. "It's about the energy you carry, the sparkle in your eye, the confidence in your stride. Where's the vibrant Lily I used to know? You've let life's challenges weigh you down too much," Jackie observed with a mix of concern and frustration. Jordan fell in love with a spirited, lively woman. It's important to remember who you were when you both fell in love. Lillian tried to reassure her mom, recalling the deep roots of her relationship with Jordan. "Mom, Jordan's been there for me since we were kids. Remember the manure incident at the farm? He didn't care about the mess, he just helped me through it. He's not shallow." Jackie, however, remained skeptical. "Fine, but if things go south, don't say I didn't warn you," she retorted, leaving Lillian to ponder her words. A few nights later, with Jordan still absent by 10 p.m., Lillian's anxiety peaked. She drove to his office, a place where his car was usually parked, but found the lot empty. She called him, her heart racing with each ring. The possibilities tormented her. Was he in trouble? Or worse, betraying her? When Jordan finally answered, Lillian masked her worry with a casual tone. "Hey, are you on your way home?" she inquired, hoping for some clue in his response. "Yeah, I'll be there soon. Go ahead and get some rest," Jordan replied, his voice tired but calm. "Still at the office?" Lillian pressed, seeking the truth. "Yep, just wrapping up. Don't wait up for me," he reassured her, but his words did little to ease her mind. Hanging up, Lillian was engulfed by a wave of anger and disbelief. Jordan's lies were palpable, and she felt betrayed. Confusion and hurt clouded her thoughts as she drove back home, her mind racing with questions and doubts. Back in bed, sleep eluded her. She rehearsed the confrontation that would inevitably unfold upon Jordan's return, each imagined scenario fueling her unrest. The night stretched on, a tumultuous prelude to the inevitable face-to-face that awaited them. As Jordan made his usual late-night entrance, showered, and was about to join her in bed, Lillian broke the silence with a clear, awake voice. "How was your day, Jordan?" she inquired, her tone indicating that this was more than a casual question. Startled to find her awake, Jordan sensed the gravity behind her use of his full name. He could feel the tension in the air, her breathing slightly erratic, signaling her distress. "Do you love me, Jordan?" Lillian interjected, before he could respond to her initial question. Without hesitation, Jordan affirmed, "Of course I do." He gently kissed her shoulder, wrapping her in a reassuring embrace. "What's on your mind, Lillian? You seem troubled," he probed, sensing her unease. Lillian took a deep breath, mustering the courage to voice her concerns. "Jordan, we need to talk. Your late nights. They're not just about work, are they?" Her voice wavered between hope and doubt, seeking the truth that had eluded her. Jordan paused, the gravity of the conversation weighing heavily upon him. With a resigned sigh, he locked eyes with her, the truth inching its way to the surface. "Lillian, you're right. There's more than just work keeping me late." "I've taken on a special project," he admitted, his tone betraying a mix of excitement and nervousness. Lillian's heart raced, her mind swirling with questions. "What kind of special project? Jordan, what's going on?" she pressed, her concern laced with a hint of fear. Jordan moved closer, his hands enveloping hers, seeking to bridge the gap her doubts had created. "It's hard to explain right now, but it's an opportunity I couldn't pass up. It could change things for us, Lillian. I just need a bit more time before I can share everything. Please, can you trust me a little longer?" he pleaded, his eyes conveying a sincere plea for understanding. In the depth of Jordan's gaze, Lillian searched for the familiar comfort of the man she married. Despite the storm of emotions swirling within her, she found a flicker of hope in his earnest appeal. With a tentative nod, she chose to lean on the foundation of trust that had anchored their relationship. "All right, Jordan, I'll trust you, but please don't keep me in the shadows. We're in this together," she responded, her voice soft yet firm, a testament to her willingness to stand by him, albeit with a heart brimming with a cautious optimism for the future they were building together. Lillian had settled into the new normal of Jordan's late nights, trying her best to carve out moments together, particularly in the quiet of the early mornings over breakfast. Jordan, for his part, remained the same supportive and upbeat partner, though the secrecy surrounding his extra work cast a shadow of mystery over their conversations. Despite Lillian's gentle prodding, Jordan kept the details of his night job close to his chest, leaving Lillian to wonder and worry in silence. One evening, as Lillian returned from work, she was greeted by Mrs. Bennet, their elderly and usually cheery neighbour, who seemed to be wrestling with something on her mind. "Good evening, Lily. How's everything going?" Mrs. Bennet asked, her tone more cautious than usual as she offered a warm but tentative hug. "Doing well, thanks. And you, Mrs. Bennet?" Lillian responded, sensing the hesitancy in her neighbour's demeanour. "Oh, keeping on, Mrs. Bennet replied, then quickly shifted the subject. "Lillian, dear, can I ask you something a bit personal?" Lillian, intrigued and slightly concerned, nodded. "Of course, what's up?" Mrs. Bennet motioned towards a nearby bench. "Let's sit a moment, shall we? My old legs aren't what they used to be," she chuckled, masking her apprehension. Once seated, she leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "It's about Jordan. Have things been all right between you two? Any disagreements?" Lillian was taken aback. "No, not at all. Is there something I should know?" Mrs. Bennet took a deep breath. "Well, it's probably nothing, but a few nights back I saw something odd. Couldn't sleep, you see, blood pressure playing up again. So I took a little stroll for some fresh air, and that's when I saw Jordan's car pulling in. Thought it a bit strange, him coming home at such an hour." Lillian interjected. "He's had to work late quite a bit lately." "Yes, I figured as much," Mrs. Bennet continued, "but here's the peculiar part. As he was getting out of the car, his phone rang. Sounded like a routine call, maybe a reminder to pick up some groceries. Milk, eggs, that sort of thing. But at 1 a.m, I found it odd, is all. Didn't want to eavesdrop, and certainly don't wish to cause any fuss. Just thought it was unusual, and felt you should know." Just past midnight, Lillian found herself once again waiting in the kitchen, her mind swirling with questions she couldn't shake. When Jordan walked in, his entrance was as quiet as ever, his routine unchanged. After changing, he approached Lillian, aiming to share a customary kiss. "Hey, why are you still up? I've told you not to wait up for me, Jordan said, concern lacing his voice. Lillian leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't sleep, not with all these questions in my head. Mrs. Bennet saw you last night, getting a call about groceries, she confessed, seeking answers. Jordan's reaction was swift. He gently disentangled himself from her embrace and took a step back, his expression one of resignation. What do you want to know, Lillian? He asked, his patience thinning. Who needed those groceries so late at night? She pressed, hoping for some clarity. Jordan, weary from the day, leaned against the windowsill, the weight of the conversation evident. Lillian, I'm exhausted. Can we not do this now? I can't tell you about the groceries, he said, his voice heavy with fatigue. Is this what your secret job is about? Buying groceries? Lillian's voice was tinged with disbelief and frustration. Yes, Jordan admitted, his reply short and devoid of further explanation. Lillian, unable to contain her confusion and growing suspicion, paced the kitchen, her thoughts racing. Jordan watched her silently for a moment, before stepping forward, his hands gently resting on her shoulders, a gesture meant to calm. Lillian, listen to me. There's no other woman, if that's what's worrying you. You can choose to believe me or not, but it would be easier if you did, Jordan assured her, his tone earnest. And you still won't tell me who these groceries are for? Lillian asked, her voice betraying her inner turmoil. Not yet, he responded, his voice firm but gentle. Lillian let out a nervous laugh, the situation bordering on the absurd. What is this all about, Jordan? Are you taking care of someone? Is that it? Jordan let out a weary sigh. Something like that. Yes. Lillian, half joking, half serious, pushed further. And is this person you're helping a stunning woman with a captivating presence? Jordan's grip tightened, pulling her close, his warmth enveloping her. No, Lillian. What stories are you conjuring up in your mind? He reassured her, kissing the back of her head softly. Have you been lost in those romance novels again? Lillian remained silent, nestled against him, her racing thoughts gradually calming with the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. In this moment of closeness, her fears and jealousy seemed trivial, overshadowed by the tangible bond they shared. She realized the folly in letting suspicion and hearsay disrupt the trust and comfort they had built together. It was better to hold on to this embrace, this connection, than to let doubt and worry drive a wedge between them. Lillian made a conscious decision to drop the subject of Jordan's mysterious night job, opting not to involve her mother and stir up unnecessary worries and speculations about Jordan's loyalty. Instead, she channeled her energy into the upcoming Christmas celebrations, determined to make it memorable and compensate for the previous year's disappointment when illness had confined them to their apartment, away from the festive traditions they had planned. This year, buoyed by the prospect of a joyous celebration, Lillian had a special surprise up her sleeve for Jordan, a trip to the Bahamas. The discovery of affordable tickets felt like a stroke of luck, and she eagerly awaited Christmas Day to unveil her surprise, carefully tucking the tickets into a decorative envelope for the big reveal. The Christmas celebration was set to take place at Lillian's parents' house, a place that held cherished memories for both Lillian and Jordan, echoing with laughter and stories from their younger days. Dressed for the occasion, Lillian admired her reflection in the mirror before joining the festivities downstairs. The scene by the Christmas tree was picture perfect, with Jordan arranging gifts, his appearance reminiscent of a cozy holiday ad, clad in a dark green cable-knit sweater, a gift from his mother. Announcing her readiness, Lillian was met with warm compliments from her mother-in-law, who playfully feigned being taken aback by Lillian's elegance. Jordan, too, offered his praise, his arm finding its familiar place around Lillian's waist as they prepared to complete the gift display under the twinkling tree. With the envelope discreetly placed among the other presents, Lillian heeded her mother's call from the kitchen. Donning an apron, she busied herself with the final touches on the dinner spread, transferring salads and sliced meats to the table and ensuring everything was perfectly arranged for their family meal. As they gathered around the table, the aroma of the reheated meat mingled with the fresh scent of pine, setting the stage for a Christmas dinner filled with warmth, laughter, and the promise of making new memories to add to their cherished collection. The festive atmosphere was in full swing, with laughter echoing around the room as plates of snacks quickly emptied, and the warmth from the wine brought a rosy glow to everyone's cheeks. Jordan's mother was a whirlwind of activity, frequently disappearing into the kitchen to emerge with yet another dish of mashed potatoes or a platter of meat to replenish the dwindling supplies. As the evening progressed, the group transitioned to the living room, snuggling under blankets on the couch, the air filled with the comfortable post-dinner lull. Amidst the relaxed chatter, Jordan's mother played the role of Santa's helper, distributing gifts with cheerful announcements of their intended recipients. When it came to Jordan's turn, he was handed an envelope from Lillian, prompting a playful jest about its contents. Lillian's retort, hinting at a surprise far better than divorce papers, piqued everyone's curiosity. Jordan's discovery of the travel vouchers to the Bahamas elicited gasps of excitement and congratulations, with Lillian beaming at the success of her surprise and the collective effort to keep it under wraps. However, Jordan's reaction was not as expected. The joy on Lillian's face faded as she noticed his troubled expression, prompting a private conversation on the porch. The chilly air outside contrasted sharply with the warmth of the gathering they left behind, the forgotten tickets serving as a silent testament to the unfolding drama. Jordan's admission that his mysterious job would prevent him from joining the trip left Lillian reeling. The revelation that he wouldn't need to be at the office but was still bound by his commitments added to her frustration and confusion. Her pleas for an explanation, a longing for the quality time they once cherished, went unanswered, deepening the rift between them. Lillian's demand for transparency, met with Jordan's resigned smile and non-committal shrug, was the final straw. Feeling betrayed and sidelined, she retreated indoors, the sound of the slamming door marking the end of their conversation and leaving their relationship in uncertain territory. The sharp sound of the door slamming echoed through the house, causing Lillian's parents and Jordan's to startle from their comfortable positions. Lillian, overwhelmed and seeking solace, ignored the concerned looks and murmured words of comfort from those around her. She hastily removed her boots and jacket, her movements brisk and determined. With a heavy heart, she retreated upstairs, locking herself away from the world to mourn the rift that had formed between her and Jordan. Curled up on the floor next to her bed, Lillian allowed her tears to flow freely, the silence of the room punctuated only by her quiet sobs. The emotional turmoil twisted inside her, as tangible as the strands of hair she wound around her fingers in distress. An hour passed before Lillian found the strength to rise, her decision made. She packed a suitcase with a heavy heart, her goodbye to her parents brief and tinged with a finality that left the room charged with unspoken words. To Jordan, she offered an ultimatum, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within. If you want to talk about your secret job, you're welcome home. Until then, better not show up. With a nod to her parents, she stepped out, closing the door behind her, leaving a palpable void in her wake. For 2 days, Lillian endured the solitude of her decision. Calls from her mother, Jordan's father, and even Jordan himself did little to ease her resolve. Each conversation, laden with attempts to downplay her feelings and justify the secrecy, only served to deepen her resolve. The insinuations of immaturity and the suggestion that spouses are entitled to their secrets did little but fuel her frustration, leaving her outwardly calm but inwardly seething. Jordan's return was as quiet as his departure, his entry marked by the soft click of his key in the lock. He came bearing gifts, a silent plea for forgiveness left on the kitchen table, accompanied by treats stored away as a peace offering. He lingered at the bedroom door, watching Lillian lost in her book, the scene a stark contrast to the turmoil that had driven them apart. The moment Lillian emerged from the room, the air between them was charged with unspoken words and pent-up emotions. Jordan, seated on the living room couch, beckoned her to join him, his voice a mix of hope and apprehension. "Come here, let's talk. Or are you still mad at me?" Lillian's response, though simple, was laden with the weight of her feelings. "I am," she admitted, taking a seat beside him, the proximity reigniting a familiar warmth despite the chill of their recent estrangement. Jordan's touch, his hand on her shoulder, and the sight of his wedding ring stirred a tumult of emotions within her, tears threatening to breach her composura once more. Jordan's apology was heartfelt, his voice filled with regret as he tried to reassure Lillian of his fidelity. Yet, Lillian's patience wore thin, her demand for transparency about his secretive job growing more insistent. The revelation that Jordan had confided in their parents before her sparked a flash of anger in Lillian, feeling betrayed that others knew more about her husband's life than she did. Jordan's explanation, that her mother had advised against sharing the details with her, only added fuel to the fire, making Lillian question what was so incomprehensible about his work. Pressed to choose between his mysterious job and his wife, Jordan didn't hesitate to affirm his loyalty to Lillian, promising an end to his late nights after sorting out one final task. His commitment to share everything come June was a small consolation to Lillian, who, despite her frustrations, chose to trust in his word once more. The evening passed in a semblance of normalcy, with the couple engaging in their usual domestic routines, their actions reflecting a tentative step towards reconciliation. Lillian's peace of mind that night was a rare respite from the whirlwind of emotions she had been battling, a testament to her willingness to give Jordan the benefit of the doubt, at least for now. Lillian's rekindled communication with Whitney marked a tentative step towards healing from her personal grief. Their past closeness, marred by Lillian's struggle with her infertility, was a reminder of the complexities of their friendship and the pain of unfulfilled dreams. Yet, amidst the tentative peace and reconciliation, the underlying tension between Jordan and Nathan lingered in Lillian's mind, a silent undercurrent in their social interactions that hinted at unresolved issues and hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. Lillian broke the news to Jordan that her buddy had reached out with weekend plans, but Jordan's reaction was lukewarm at best. "Do I have to tag along?" he groaned. "It's Whitney we're talking about. What's gotten into you?" Lillian retorted, clearly annoyed. "Aren't you keen on meeting her?" "Is Nathan going to be there too?" Jordan inquired, trying to gauge the situation. "Likely. He's mostly home on weekends. Plus, Whitney suggested we hang out at their spot. She's planning to whip up a cake," Lillian explained. Jordan's enthusiasm didn't pick up. "I'd rather not bump into him," he admitted bluntly. "Why ever not?" Lillian pressed for an answer. "He just rubs me the wrong way. You know that," Jordan confessed. Later that day, Lillian got on the phone to let Whitney know Jordan wouldn't be joining. Whitney didn't seem to mind. In fact, she appeared somewhat relieved. It turned out Nathan wasn't too keen on having Jordan over either, especially not in his own home, and he'd made his feelings clear to Whitney. "They're supposed to mellow out with age," Whitney remarked, a bit disappointed. Despite the tension, Jordan drove Lillian over to Whitney's. The car ride was silent and tense. Whitney's apartment was a familiar sight, though changes were evident. The tiny crib had been swapped for a bigger bed, a study desk and bookshelf were new additions, and the toy collection had grown. Whitney had gone out of her way to bake a honey cake, knowing how much her friend loved it. "It's too bad Jordan didn't come. He's fond of honey cake," she noted while serving the cake. Nathan chimed in, scratching his nose. "Maybe he would have if he wasn't so high and mighty." An uncomfortable silence took over, which Lillian quickly tried to dissipate. "Let's not let this dampen our spirits. Whitney, could you pack a slice for Jordan?" "I'm not looking to spoil anyone's day," Nathan added with a hint of sarcasm. "Unlike some people." "Nathan, that's enough," Whitney interjected, disapproving of his tone. "Why beat around the bush? It's pretty clear Jordan can be a tough nut, too stubborn for his own good," Nathan continued, unfazed. Lillian, puzzled, ventured, "Did he ever share why he's not fond of you?" Nathan laughed it off. "He thinks I'm no good, right, Whitney?" Threw around words like scoundrel. Lillian took a moment, sipping her tea. "It's baffling. There must be something more. What could you have possibly done to upset him so?" "Me? I've never wronged a soul, as long as I've lived. Though the temptation's there, especially with how some car owners try to swindle," Nathan said, half joking as he accepted a saucer from Whitney. He savoured another bite of cake before continuing. "And I've always played it straight in my deals. Never cheated anyone. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tempted sometimes. You know, to give back some of the treatment I get." Lillian, trying to keep the peace, chimed in. "Let's not hold any grudges, especially not against Jordan. And please, no hard feelings towards me, all right?" Nathan offered a casual shrug. Who could stay mad at friends? After indulging in the sweet treat, they opted for a leisurely stroll to the nearby park. Nathan stood close behind Whitney, his arms wrapped around her, occasionally chiming in with the ladies' chat while keeping an eye on Peter. As they walked, Lillian debated internally whether to spill the beans about Jordan's clandestine job, the ruined vacations, and her folks' take on the whole saga. She felt the urge to unload her burdens to someone. Finding a quiet moment, Whitney drew closer to Lillian, gently taking her hand. "Listen, Lillian, if Jordan had a secret life, you'd sense it. There's definitely more to it, and if your parents are in the loop, it's probably something they're not ready to disclose just yet. But they will, in time." Their visit winding down, they lingered on the porch, awaiting Jordan's arrival for Lillian's ride home. As his car drew near, Nathan and Whitney offered their farewells. Jordan pulled up, killed the engine, and stepped out, greeting Whitney with a warm hug and offering Nathan a subdued handshake. "And who's this young champ?" he grinned, ruffling Peter's hair, lending an ear to his schoolyard heroics. "Let's catch up again soon," Jordan suggested as he departed. "Definitely," Whitney agreed with a nod. Back in the car, Jordan inquired, "How's Whitney? What's the latest with them?" Lillian relayed the McGee's recent happenings, to which Jordan listened with apparent contentment. "Whitney's looking well. Peter's shot up, hasn't he? And Nathan's job? Is everything smooth there? Jordan probed. Why the sudden interest in his job? Lillian shot back, puzzled by his curiosity. I thought he wasn't worth your time. Just curious, Jordan shrugged. Has he conned someone else recently? Lillian mulled over his words. You know, I used to think maybe you had a point about him, but now I'm starting to question that. Maybe you're the one with the issue. Jordan chuckled at her accusation. So, I'm the villain now? Their conversation dwindled to silence for the remainder of the drive, each lost in their thoughts. As Lillian lay next to Jordan, a whirlwind of emotions churned inside her. The closeness she once cherished now felt suffocating, leaving her engulfed in a sea of despair and confusion. The man beside her, once her confidant, now seemed like a shadowed stranger, stirring a concoction of fear and loathing within her. The urge to scream and break free from this facade was overpowering, yet she remained silent, pulling the blanket tighter around her, seeking solace in her own restrained sobs. The festive season had passed, leaving behind a veneer of normalcy that failed to mask the growing chasm in Lillian's heart. Life felt like an elaborate play, with each day bringing her further from reality and closer to a performance where she played a part she no longer recognized. Mornings brought reflections of a woman she scarcely knew, her eyes devoid of the warmth they once held. With spring's arrival, Lillian longed for the simplicity of their country home, envisioning it as the perfect backdrop to mend the fractures in their relationship. She hoped the serene setting would provide an opportunity for heartfelt discussions, perhaps even a peaceful resolution, no matter how painful. However, fate had other plans. Their parents, citing the unbearable heat, politely declined her invitation, leaving her to face the prospect of solitude. Jordan, too, was conveniently whisked away by work commitments. His frequent absences now a norm, Lillian resignedly accepted. Determined to seek refuge in the tranquility of the countryside, Lillian set off alone, her heart heavy yet hopeful for a respite. But upon arrival, the sight of Jordan's car, starkly out of place, shattered her fragile peace. Panic took hold, her breaths coming in short, sharp gasps as the reality of her husband's deceit loomed large. With trepidation, she approached the locked door, her hand hesitating at the knob. Opting instead to knock, she braced herself, unwilling to confront whatever betrayal lay on the other side unannounced. The facade of normalcy had crumbled, leaving Lillian on the precipice of confronting the truth she had long feared. The door unlocked, and as Lillian braced herself for the worst, Jordan appeared, his voice laced with surprise. "Lillian?" he uttered, clearly not expecting her. Lillian, bewildered and brimming with dread, barely registered Jordan's confusion. Her gaze darted past him to the living room, where she spotted a stirring beneath a blanket on the sofa. Her heart pounding, she stormed past Jordan, her shoes still on, and with a swift motion, pulled back the blanket to reveal not a secret lover, but a small, tearful boy. The child, no more than 3, looked up at Jordan with a mix of fear and hope. "Daddy!" he cried, extending his arms. Jordan, with a tenderness Lillian hadn't seen before, scooped up the boy, comforting him with gentle words and a kiss on his forehead. Lillian's mind raced as she stared at the scene, her voice barely a whisper. "Who is this, Jordan? Your son?" The boy's innocent gaze met Lillian's, his tears a silent plea for reassurance. Lillian felt a storm of emotions brewing within her body tensing for a confrontation. Jordan, sensing her rising fury, pleaded for calm. "Please, let's not jump to conclusions. I'll explain." Shaken, Lillian shed her coat in a heap and staggered to the kitchen, her movements sluggish, as if wading through a dense fog. Her attempt to quench her thirst ended with a shattered glass and a cut finger, her body finally succumbing to a chair, craving rest and escape from the chaos. "Who is he?" she demanded again, her voice steadier but laced with fatigue. Jordan, holding the boy, responded, "This is Noah, Nathan's son." Lillian's shock was palpable. "Nathan's son? How? Whitney knows nothing of this." Jordan's admission only deepened the mystery. "No, Whitney's in the dark. It's complicated, but I promise there's an explanation." Doubt and anger clashed within Lillian. She accused Jordan of fabricating a story, her trust in him waning, yet Jordan remained calm, urging her to verify his claim with Nathan himself. With her emotions in turmoil, Lillian reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed Nathan's number. Despite her skepticism, a part of her clung to the hope that Jordan's bizarre story held some shred of truth. "Nathan, it's Lillian. Can we talk about Noah?" she asked, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and anticipation. The line went dead for a moment, leaving Lillian in a tense silence before Nathan abruptly hung up. Confused and anxious, Lillian sat there, her heart racing, surrounded by the serene sounds of nature that contrasted sharply with the turmoil inside her. Shortly after, her phone rang again. It was Nathan, his voice urgent. "Lillian, you can't breathe a word of this to Whitney. Understand?" Tears welled up in Lillian's eyes as the gravity of the situation sank in. "How could you do this to her, Nathan? Whitney's devoted her life to you. She loves you deeply. This will break her," she managed to say between sobs. Nathan's voice was a mix of defensiveness and desperation. "What was I supposed to do, huh? Bring him home and introduce him to Whitney as my son from another woman? No way. And this wouldn't even be your problem if your husband hadn't decided to play the hero. I made it clear to him. Once he took Noah, it was on him." Nathan's rant faded into the background as Lillian's mind reeled. She slowly set the phone down, lying back on the grass, the cool blades tickling her neck. Amidst the turmoil, a calming realization dawned on her. Jordan hadn't betrayed her. His actions were far from what she had feared. With a newfound sense of clarity, Lillian returned inside, prepared to piece together the entire story. Nathan's ordeal began with an affair during one of his business trips, a fleeting connection that resulted in an unplanned pregnancy. When Noah was born, Nathan refused to acknowledge him, hoping the issue would fade away. However, when Noah's mother threatened to bring him to Nathan's doorstep, Nathan panicked. In desperation, he reached out to his Aunt Leslie, pleading with her to take Noah temporarily until he could devise a plan. Noah's mother had given up all her rights to him, leaving Leslie, Nathan's aunt, as his temporary guardian. However, Leslie, already stretched thin with her own children and jobs, soon realized she couldn't provide the care Noah needed. When she informed Nathan of her inability to continue caring for Noah, he panicked, desperate to avoid the situation escalating to his doorstep. Amidst their heated phone conversation, Leslie, feeling cornered with no clear solution, decided to take a breather at a local diner. As she sat there with Noah, lost in thought and overwhelmed by her predicament, she couldn't help but hope for some divine intervention to guide her through this mess. Fate seemed to answer her silent prayers when Jordan walked into the diner. Recognizing Leslie from their shared past in the town, Jordan approached her, offering a friendly greeting and inquiring about her well-being. His attention soon turned to the quiet boy beside her. "Hey, champ, what's your name?" Jordan asked, offering a warm smile to Noah, who shyly shared a piece of his fry in response. Leslie, caught off guard, managed a vague explanation. "This is Noah. He's just..." Well, he's been a bit of a handful for a lot of folks, barely concealing the true weight of Noah's story. Jordan, misunderstanding, thought she referred to typical childlike mischief. As they conversed, Jordan shared a piece of his own story, a rare moment of openness about his and Lillian's challenges with starting a family. Leslie, sensing a deeper connection and perhaps a solution to the tangled web she found herself in, decided to take a leap of faith. She shared Noah's story with Jordan, laying bare the complexities and heartaches that had led to this moment. Jordan's heart went out to Noah as he learned about the little boy's plight, abandoned by his own parents. Driven by a mix of compassion and an unexpected connection, he made a snap decision to take Noah under his wing. Calling off work, he dedicated the entire day to the boy, quickly forming a bond that felt as natural as if they were truly father and son. For Jordan, the joy of spending time with Noah was unparalleled. He was well aware of Lillian's reservations about adoption, their numerous discussions on the matter never far from his mind. Yet, in the moment, none of that mattered. He was determined to make things work, convinced that a solution would present itself. Meanwhile, Whitney, piecing together the puzzle of Jordan's absences and mysterious errands, was moved to tears by the unfolding story. Jordan's parents, too, were privy to this new chapter in their lives, supporting him as he navigated this unexpected journey. Noah, for his part, grew so attached to Jordan that parting each night became a challenge, with Jordan staying by his side until he drifted off to sleep. One day, as Noah was engrossed in cartoons, Jordan took a moment to tidy up the kitchen, his thoughts already on their next family outing by the river. The simple domestic scene was a glimpse into a life Lillian had never imagined for herself, yet she found herself deeply moved by the love Jordan showed Noah, her heart warming to the child as if he were her own. However, amidst the newfound happiness, Lillian couldn't shake the feeling of deceit hanging over them. One evening, as Jordan cleaned up after dinner and Noah slept peacefully, she voiced her concerns. "Jordan, we can't keep this from Whitney. It wouldn't be right. She deserves to know the truth." Jordan, ready to unburden himself, agreed, but was stopped by Lillian's firm resolve. "I should be the one to tell her. It's only fair." With a heavy heart and a mind swirling with potential outcomes, Lillian sought the solace of the apple tree, the place where she felt closest to clarity and peace. It was there, under its blossoming boughs, that she dialed Whitney's number, bracing herself for a conversation that would change everything. After spending hours under the open sky, Lillian mustered the courage for the conversation that lay ahead. When Jordan and Noah, cheerful from their time by the river, returned home, the house was filled with a quiet tension, the air heavy with unspoken truths. As Whitney stepped through the door, greeted by the sight of the family seemingly at ease, her curiosity was piqued by the presence of the unfamiliar child. The room fell into an uneasy silence at her inquiry, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. Whitney's light-hearted demeanour shifted to concern as the atmosphere grew thick with apprehension. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Lillian, with no room left for evasion, revealed the truth about Noah's paternity, her words cutting through the silence like a knife. Whitney's confusion was palpable as she sought answers from Lillian and Jordan, both of whom struggled under the intensity of her gaze. As Lillian recounted the tale, the room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in with each revelation. Jordan's interjection, affirming the gravity of the situation, left Whitney reeling, the ground beneath her seeming to give way. Whitney's response, a mix of disbelief and dawning realization, pierced the room. Her accusation of betrayal, directed at Jordan, was a raw expression of her pain. her trust shattered by the secrets kept from her. Jordan, perhaps recognizing the need for privacy in this moment of raw emotion, quietly exited, leaving Lillian to offer what comfort she could to her devastated friend. As they cried together, a bond of shared sorrow and empathy formed between them, offering a sliver of solace amidst the storm of emotions. That evening brought a gentle warmth to the house as Whitney bonded with Noah, her voice filling the room with stories and laughter. Noah, nestled in her embrace, listened intently, his eyes heavy with sleep but comforted by her presence. Whitney's affection for the little boy was evident, her words a promise of better days to come. As night fell, Jordan took on the role of chef, crafting a simple yet nourishing meal from the day's leftovers, while the onset of rain brought a refreshing breeze through the open windows. The stir of the garden and the cool air seemed to wash away the day's tensions, leaving a space for new thoughts and feelings. Lillian found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, her previous apprehensions about adoption dissolving in the face of the undeniable bond she felt forming with Noah. The thought of becoming his caregiver, of being there for his everyday moments, filled her with an unexpected joy. In the days that followed, Lillian became the driving force behind securing a stable future for Noah. She, alongside Jordan and Leslie, navigated the legalities to ensure Noah's well-being. Her days were now filled with purpose. Each task, from paperwork to picking out essentials for Noah, a step towards their new life together. Jordan watched in amazement as Lillian transformed, her actions speaking volumes of her commitment to Noah. The apartment, once quiet, now buzzed with the energy of a family coming together to welcome its newest member. Their home became a hub of celebration, with family gatherings marked by laughter, music, and the warmth of shared meals. Jordan's mother's fish pie became a symbol of these joyful reunions, a reminder of the love that bound them all together. Noah, once seen as a burden, was now the center of a loving circle, his laughter a testament to the joy he brought into their lives. The attention and affection he received from Lillian, Jordan, and their families were a balm to his young heart, offering him the security and love he had long been denied. Nathan's sudden disappearance, driven by fear of facing Whitney's justified anger, left a void that he attempted to fill with a brief return and gifts, an effort swiftly rejected by Whitney and her supportive parents. The symbolic act of leaving his belongings at the doorstep marked the end of his presence in their lives. Lillian, caught between her newfound joy as a mother to Noah and the pain her friend endured due to Nathan's betrayal, rushed to Whitney's side upon hearing the news. Her heart was heavy, torn between the happiness Noah brought into her life and the circumstances that led to his arrival. Whitney, now facing the daunting prospect of single motherhood to twins on the horizon, showed remarkable resilience despite the absence of her own parents. Lillian, ever the problem solver, saw an opportunity to extend the newfound familial support surrounding Noah to Whitney and her soon-to-arrive babies. In the days that followed, Whitney's home transformed into a hive of activity and care, with Lillian and Jordan's parents stepping in as surrogate grandparents. This network of support not only helped Whitney navigate the challenges of raising twins, but also brought a sense of extended family and community to both households, weaving a tighter bond of love and solidarity among them all.